And we're back with some more oxygen not included. And today, the first thing I want to get started on is a transport network. Namely because our duplicants are taking a long time to get anywhere, and we should really have installed the transport grid a long time back. However, one thing I am getting a little concerned about is the amount of power we're drawing. We kinda maybe have been pushing our luck on our power requirements. Our nuclear plant is doing quite a good job of providing us with power, but we are actually burning through quite a bit of it because every single one of these Radbolt generators consumes, 480 watts? So that's 1 kilowatt, 2 kilowatts, that's 3 kilowatts of power we're just drawing there. And if we go back to our home base, we can see we've got another, well, 1.5 kilowatts here, plus all the other equipment we've got running. We should maybe put ourselves together a little thing to show us a graphical representation of how our power is doing. Earlier on, I did this for our sort of a disco section for our duplicants. So I figured let's grab some of these pixel packs and mix ourselves a little battery power indicator. Probably about, I'd say we do it over here. We've got the space and it sort of straps nicely on top of our base. The plan here is going to be fairly straightforward. We're going to put down about 30 pixel packs made out of glass. And then what we'll have is each pixel pack will count for 1 kilowatt of power draw. And that'll sort of give us it'll tell us roughly how much power we're drawing all the way along. Our power production up there is actually 18 steam turbines running flat out, which means we've got about 15 kilowatts of power production. We do have some emergency coal generators here in case the power goes down, and at the same time, these things over here recycle a lot of power, so this thing is almost a power neutral system. So let's say we can handle 20 kilowatts. Right, well, first we're going to put in a power wire here, the heavy conductive wire, so that we can draw the wattage from it. These little automation sections, where are they? Wattage sensors. Yes, these are the ones. We're going to put wattage sensors all the way along here. Yeah, something like that. This should be fairly simple once we actually get it constructed. When you first build the pixel packs, they're just going to be, they have this cool black background color going on. You can use that as the background color if you want. You can also, hook up automation wires between the two. When the automation wires are first built, what this will do is we'll change the pixel pack. You'll notice here it's got this green color and this orange color. And depending on if you're sending it a green or a red signal, as in on or off, this is the colors that will come up. But these colors can, of course, be changed. In fact, you know what, let's just do this one here. We're going to leave this at green, and the other side we will make white, I suppose, is probably the smart plan. So this means if it's on, as it's in detecting, say we'll set this wattage sensor up here. If the wattage sensor detects that 1,000 watts are being used on the network, it will send a green signal. That green signal will cause this to turn green. If it's not green, it will turn white. Come on, why are you not white? There we go. Right. So that means we'll be able to tell if we're drawing 1,000 watts, and then we'll do it all the way up. Well, maybe not quite all the way up. Let me finish just off these automation wires. And get some power going here. As you can see these getting powered up, you'll see they're all turning green. Nope, never mind, there we go. What this is sensing here is how many watts are being drawn on the line, and I've set these all to just one higher. So, 1,000 watts, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, all the way up. Going all the way up to 30,000 watts. And this is sort of our indicator, though. I want to make some changes to the coloring here. I would like it not to be red when it's not on. I want it to be white. So what we're going to do is we're just going to, say, copy this, and we're going to paste it all the way along, like that. There we go. But I don't just want that. I want a little bit better of a visual indicator. So let's find the 10,000 watt section. Okay, so that's 1,000. That's 10,000 watts. Everything above this, we want to change this slightly. I mean, this is actually a serious amount of power draw, so let's change this to orange. Once we've changed it to orange, we just copy that to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think that's 10. Is it 10? Yep, perfect. That means when we start going above this point and we're drawing more power, yeah, see, you can see we're going into the above 10 kilowatt range. It just gives us a nice quick visual indicator of where we are. Then if we go above 20,000 watts, that's a lot. That's way more than we want. So we want to make that red. Yeah, that will indicate we've gone into yes, this is the rather expensive territory. Now, we're not anywhere close to that yet, but we'll find it when we put in our transport grid. And that's just a nice, easy visual indicator of where our power levels are at. Do remember, we'll max out at about 15, so once this is about 5 bars in, we're going to be stretching our power supplies. However, the extra power we get from here is going to make things a little bit confusing. Some of the power recycling we've got going on, especially considering there's just random steam turbines thrown about the place. Though most of these steam turbines are not actually plugged into the main grid. Like that one up there is not connected to the main grid. However, it does actually provide local power. I don't know how that's all going to get calculated by this, but it should work fine. Anyway, with that done, transport network. It's taking way too long for our duplicants to get everywhere, even with 20 athletics. So under the base section, we have access to the transit tubes. I'm thinking, yeah, we're going to place a whole bunch of them around here. We're going to have to do a little bit of movement. This is going to be sort of our core network, because this is where all the dupes come out. So we're going to want to have about 6 access points here so they can all just get in and there's never any congestion. One little quick side detour before we get this in. I have to take care of something I should have done a while ago. This desalinator here keeps breaking. I didn't notice for a while, but what's happening is we're putting in water that's -4 and it's putting out clean water at -3.5. Yeah, this keeps causing cold damage and shattering this. Yep, well, that's awkward. Before, we used to be heating up this water using a metal refinery, but since the installation of our little sauna up here to do all of our metal production, this place down here has not been getting any heating, so, awkward. Well, I've got a plan to fix that. We're going to put some hot water through here, and that hot water will help drive up the temperature. Now, where are we getting that hot water from? Well, way over here. 1 second, we'll just continue that. This pipe is running all the way from this side of the map where we get our hot water supplies. This is a saltwater geyser, comes out at 95C. So we're going to sort of run that through the bottom of our cold water tank. That should heat it up enough. We're only going to use granite pipes. We're not there to take all of that heat out and try and chill it down as much as we can. We're just going to take it enough that it stops breaking our pipes up there. Another option that's pretty straightforward that we could do is we could just grab one of these stations and put in a, or where is it? Not stations, sorry, utilities, liquid tepidizer. These things are really cheap to run. Well, they're 960 watts, but they generate so much heat for the amount of power you put in. They're really handy that way. But why not just recycle some of the heat from the water we're already disposing of anyway? That water, we're brute force cooling it anyway, because it goes up here, it gets turned into clean water and then fed to our crops. So this is what this whole steam turbine up here is doing, is it's chilling this whole area down to give us that to cool that water. So if we can pre-chill it a bit beforehand and take care of our pipe cracking problem, it seems like a good exchange. Alright, just give us a couple of minutes to finish this off. All of the piping is complete. Here comes that water. Now it's down to, what, 92? Yeah, about 92 degrees. And then as it passes through here, it dumps off a bunch of heat. Now we're only using granite because we don't want to cook this place. And when it gets out, it's down to 88, 87. Okay, so it drops enough that I think I will be happy. That should drive up the temperature to temperature ranges that are not so, well, destructive to our desalinator. Let's give that a minute to catch up. With our water supplies now stabilized there, it's time to get it on. Let's give us some transit tubes and let's stick them all along this section. Now these are actually, well, fairly straightforward in their function. You can transport from one transport tube entrance to any exit. Now, exits, though, can be anything. You can have a tube just like dropping down like that and it can drop a duplicant out on the ground, or they can go to one of these access points, one or the other. The thing is, the only real rule about running these pipes is you can't have a U-bend. So you can't have two things coming down like that. You have to leave a gap in the middle. So the reason that's why there is a gap between these transit tube stations, and why you need to be a little bit careful when you're going around corners. So, let's just see where we're going to run this sucker. So the thing is, I want to put in 2 layers with 6 access points right here for our entrance to our base. That's where most of the traffic will be coming from, and then we want to be able to run this all the way up one side of the map, and down here as well. I think down is where we're going to be going first, because up here we're going to have to go around our hot industrial sauna. Did not think to leave space on this side, so we're going to have to cross and go up here. So let me just run a quick section of piping down to here. So please welcome the largest plastic construction project you do every game, which is a transit tube going all the way from the middle of the base, or well, all the way from the exit of your base, all the way down to the bottom of the map. We're also going to have to do the up version of it as well and put in some stations along the way, but that should be fairly quick. Many installations later, it would appear we have ourselves a transport grid, and our duplicants seem to be loving it. Yeah. Great thing about this is, do remember these systems are two-way, so duplicants can actually pass each other in the tubes and not butt heads. I don't know, it's like a physics thing, they're like in a parallel universe, whatever. Oh, and power-wise, yeah, it's eaten a bit into our power grid, I think, but I don't think we've quite gone up to 15 yet, have we? Yeah, we haven't quite hit the 15 megawatt range. We'll be fine. So, with all of that done, it's time to do space. what I want to do is go and get our hands on some supercoolant. Now, supercoolant is going to be a little bit trickier this time around, namely because, well, the only thing I can find that's going to get us there is out here at one of these glimmering asteroid fields. They contain fullerene. We need fullerene to make supercoolant, and I think this might be a one-time use resource. I suppose we'll find out in a wee bit. If you look down here at this molecular forge, you can see you can make fullerene, but that requires graphite, and I think the graphite requires this magical tree that we may not have access to in this map. I may have generated it before that got introduced, but we can still make supercoolant using fullerene, gold, and petroleum. So let's get ourselves a rocket together. However, before we launch the rocket, we're going to need to, well, make a whole bunch of changes to it. Namely, we're going to have to get rid of this last large gas cargo canister and replace it with a cargo module, which means we need a different form of oxygen production on board. That means I think we're going with the Oxylite production method. We are going to have to basically throw in a storage bin full of Oxylite in here, and then use that to provide our oxygen for the system. That means we're going to have to put down some Oxylite production. I'm thinking, whereabouts? Over here. Considering we are going to need about, I would imagine 20 tons of this stuff. 20 tons of Oxylite to be reasonable. I think we're going to core out this area and bring it into the fold, as in we're going to oxygenate this place. We've already walled it in across the top. This can be where we produce all our Oxylite. It's going to need its own electrolyzer setup and everything. We are going to build the two Oxylite refineries up here, nice and close to the space biome. We've stuck in a quick liquid lock here. This will mean any Oxylite that's produced should have a short walk over to the rockets. This is actually kind of important, because if they get called away to lunch while they're busy... is that I think that's the last batch of oil beneath that. If they get called away to lunch while they're carrying the Oxylite to the rockets, they'll just drop it on the ground, and that stuff will evaporate into space rather quickly. So let's cut down on travel distances if at all possible. Now, with this going in, these Oxylite refineries, they're power hogs. 1.2 kilowatt power hogs, which, that's a lot. Maybe we should have made a petroleum boiler. No, it's fine. We can throw in some solar if we really need more power. Now, these things do also consume a lot of oxygen, and I don't want to tap into our current supply. We currently are producing about 3 kilos of oxygen per second, which... we're only using about 1.9 of that, but I don't want to start messing around with this and trying to divert a whole kilo of oxygen up here, especially considering all of the flow that's been done. So let's just throw ourselves together a quick oxygen production facility down here. Maybe just a 1 kilo one. 1 kilo of oxygen per second should give us more than enough to get these Oxylite refineries running. And the finished product. Well, semi-finished. All we've got to do now is hook up the water. For water supply, we're going to go with this hot water geyser over here. Why not? We haven't used this in a long time. We can hook that up there. It's already got power. That will come all the way up here and fill into those electrolyzers. Now, before they get going, let's hook up the power. We've got a quick transformer over here that's going to plug in. This thing will be self-powered eventually, of course. But for the time being, we are going to pump the oxygen out of there. Oh, I just realized something. I really should just stick on a gas tank onto this, shouldn't I? If I don't, I won't be able to pump clean for a while. We'll stick in a quick gas tank over here. There we go. That'll allow us to drain out some of the oxygen. Settings on this are, well, this is not actually configured correctly just yet, but these ones are set to 450, and we're hopefully going to get mostly just oxygen out of this bottom section. Let's just run this for a bit until it's almost ready to be... almost ready to turn on the top pumps. This is taking a little bit of time. We're going to have to scrape some mixed gases out of the top, unfortunately. Those are going to get sent up there and dumped straight into space. This, though, should only take a few more moments. And come on, just a little bit more. Oh, come on, 7... so close. We will throw in a second gas tank just to soak up the last of that oxygen. And should hopefully get that pump to move just 1 or 2 more times, and we can finally have that clean. It probably wouldn't make that big of a difference, but I do want to seal up the top of this. This area is going to get pretty hot once this has been producing oxygen for a while. Yeah, come on, grab out the last 2. And done. Perfect. Right, we have a perfectly even system. And that means we can get rid of this tank. We don't need that anymore. We can also get rid of this bridge. This gas bridge is no longer necessary. We're going to plug that into the system, and then the hydrogen will power this whole thing. Well, maybe not immediately, but soon enough it will. That's our little system set up. That's all the oxygen going over here, but we already do have 20 tons of Oxylite in storage, so it seems we don't We're not going to need these exactly now, but we will the moment we start doing multiple rockets. So first up, we need to go and change out this large gas cargo canister and replace it with something else. I like the look of that large cargo bay. Yes, that will do. It takes 1,000 tons of steel. We will build it. This will, of course, replace the gas cargo canister, and I'm assuming, yeah, we just lost 5 tons of oxygen. But it could be worse. We've managed to oxygenate the space biome. That's actually a pretty cool bit. I really wish I should have screenshotted that. Damn it. This weird-looking monstrosity up here is our drill cone engine, or drill cone module. This seems is what allows us to mine out those patches of resources on the map. You can't send it to planets. You send them to those resource patches, or what are they called? Debris fields? Yeah, asteroid fields. Well, it's going to be a long journey. We're going to need a lot of resources in here to keep our duplicate alive on the journey, especially if we're going to do multiple round trips. This will be our starter rocket, I suppose. We'll figure it out as we go along. This is going to be 20 tons of oxylite in here. I was going to put 20 tons of oxylite down here in the bottom. And the plan would be, when they exhale carbon dioxide, I was hoping the oxide would overwrite it. It would save us a bunch of effort if we didn't have to deal with carbon dioxide on our missions. But I figure we can do one mission, see if it overwrites the carbon dioxide. If it doesn't, we'll have to put in a gas pump, maybe a few different bits and bobs. But we'll worry about that on the next mission. For now, I think we're ready to launch. We'll just have to get a duplicate in here, enable the toilets, and then send them on their way. Let me assign a crew. We are ready to launch, and the drill cone has just fired up. That's pretty cool. The drill cone, it seems it takes 1 ton of diamond, and that 1 ton of diamond is what powers it, and this seems to be expendable. And Godspeed. Exit. Are we still getting loads of radiation? There was a patch that dropped recently. Still loads of radioactive contaminants. This thing down here should be able to power the rocket almost... Yeah, we'll see. It should be a self-sustained rocket reaction. I'm not going to use these for a while. We'll leave these here just as emergency ones, but I think I'm going to try living entirely off the rad bolt generator we've mounted underneath the rocket. But with that gone, that thing's going to take a long while to get where it's going. Yeah, that's going to take, 1.4 cycles for every single tile. That's going to be gone a little while. In the meantime, let's just check on our oxygen production. That should be going flat out right about now. Yeah, there we go. How many up to? 449 kilos. This system, though, is... it's stupidly simple, to be honest. We pump the gases in there, and the oxide refineries turn them into oxylite. Now, it takes a little bit of gold to do it, but honestly, it's a minuscule amount of gold to make them, so it's usually not that big a deal. You can use puffs to make this stuff as well, but that's just far more time and effort than it's worth. These work out pretty good. However, you may be wondering why are we leaving the oxide up here without anything to stop it off-gassing, because it's going to, oxide will off-gas and turn into oxygen, unless it's pressurized. Well, it's already above 2 kilos of oxygen pressure up here, and we honestly don't care if we lose a bit. Plus, all of our duplicates are in atmosuits, they're not actually consuming any of the oxygen around here. That puffed will, but it'll just make more oxylite, I suppose. Either way, not too worried. However, all that extra power drain, well... Yeah, 1.2 kilowatts extra of power drain on top of the transport grid, on top of everything else. We are actually, occasionally I can see our batteries in here taking a little bit of a dip. I threw in all these steel batteries in here because, well, we could use smart batteries. They're actually more efficient in terms of power bleed off, but these ones are more space efficient and we can store more power with them, which is usually more important with a steam room. Plus, any extra heat they produce we don't really care about because it's in a steam room. And you can see there, they're at 40 kilojoules, but every so often I see that dip down a little bit lower. So I think what we'll do is we'll throw down some solar just to tide us over. I mean, we can put in a line of solar across here, plug it into our power grid, and that should make sure we don't have any power needs for the very, very foreseeable future. Looks like there's been a few changes to solar panels. Well, half a change. I think they kind of messed this one up. What they're trying to do here is you can't build heavy watt wire through solar panels anymore. You used to be able to build heavy watt wire through the solar panels, which meant you could attach them directly into your grid. Now they're having it that you can't build heavy watt wire through solar panels, meaning you can't attach them directly to your power spine grid. However, it seems if you build the heavy watt conductive wire first, you can then place the solar panels on top of it. So, you know what, let's do it both ways for this time around. We'll deconstruct these solar panels, which should allow us to finish the heavy watt wire, and then once the heavy watt wire is finished, we can put the solar panels on top. I don't expect this to last very long, but for now you can just, well, place a solar panel right over them like that. Boom, boom. No problems at all. However, I imagine in the near future they're going to realize that people are able to do this, and they're going to switch it so that you can't place solar panels over heavy watt wire. So let's make this next section over here more compatible with future designs, shall we? And the future of solar. Well, for now anyway. What you would have to do is start using conductive wire. Well, you can use smaller wire if you want it, but I would prefer to use conductive wire. Now with all of these, if they all max out, and they won't, it'll really depend on time of day, and especially if you're using the pyramid design, I would definitely recommend the pyramid design to squeeze the maximum amount of power out of the minimum amount of sunlight. There's a whole tutorials and graphs and all this sort of thing, and yes, this is definitely the most efficient way to take advantage of the sunlight. But one thing here is this conductive wire can handle 2 kilowatts, and this can generate a maximum of 1.9, so you're definitely going to be under capacity. In fact, you'll be a little bit, probably more like 1500 watts would probably be about the maximum you get out of this. However, we do need to attach this to our main power grid. So what you do is you have this run down here, and we dump it into a 2 kilowatt transformer. Well, actually, no, these are 4 kilowatt transformers. So that will draw up to, well, 4 kilowatts off this transformer. Unfortunately, we will never be going above 2, so this should mean this should be perfectly safe, no overloads, no nothing. It does mean, though, that there's now extra steps when using solar. I think they're trying to complicate solar a bit because it was just so simple. People are complaining there's no point using anything else. If you just put down solar, you can run vast bases of solar before you even have to think about using nuclear or petroleum or natural gas or any of the others. I mean, we have tapped into 2 natural gas vents around here, and all we're doing with them is we're running our cook station. So yeah, all of our natural gas is being sent over to power or to run our gas range. That's it. We have no need to actually use it for power. True, we went on the nuclear section, but whatever. Food wise, we now have 1.5 million pepper bread, 1.9 million barbecue, and 4.7 million berry sludge. Yeah, we got a lot of food. We got an awful lot more food than we actually need, but, you know, that was sort of the goal. Alright, let's see how our rocket is doing. Oh, it's just a couple of tiles away. Perfect. I want to see how this works. And here comes our rocket. Now that should be migrating in, and oh, drilling's happening. Perfect. Okay, total mass 37.6 tons. Cargo bay 46.3. Okay, so this drills away. The diamond-tipped drill bit wears away as it goes through it, and I shouldn't be scrolling like that. Alright, so okay, we're drilling through and extracting resources. Do we know exactly how much we've got in the tank? Well, this seems relatively straightforward. The diamond drill tone starts to get ablated away, I suppose, because you're using a diamond drill tip, and as that slowly gets worn down, you get more and more resources out of the field. However, I'm not sure exactly how much diamond you're expending per kilo of extracted resources, but we can figure that out at the end. We'll see exactly how much we get and how much of the diamond drill cone is destroyed. Hopefully this all works out as percentage-wise, but this means, well, this is interesting. You can turn coal into diamond. Well, you take coal and you turn that into refined carbon, and then your refined carbon you can turn into diamond using some radiation and power, which means you should theoretically be able to take the sedimentary rock we get, feed that to some hatches, you get 50% of it back as coal, and 125 kilos of that turns into 100 kilos of refined carbon, and then that 100 kilos of refined carbon is turned into 100 kilos of diamond. So it should theoretically be possible to just harvest enough resources that you can turn the resulting resources into coal through hatches to eventually get more diamond effectively. That's interesting enough, though some of the patches may not be quite the same. Like organic mass, I suppose, actually, yeah, slime and algae, you can definitely convert that to coal. Sandstone and sand, that's 70% of that can be all turned in, and even the algae itself, yeah, that can all be turned back into coal. Even polluted dirt, you can feed that to sage hatches, and it's even a 1-to-1 ratio of polluted dirt to coal. Pretty much most of these, I think, are self-sustaining. Oh, well, not ice, carbon dioxide, and oxygen. That one's just going to be... Jesus, that's a lot of carbon dioxide. Why would you want the carbon dioxide? You know what? Who cares? Let's finish this off and see exactly how much we get out of one run. Turns out the exchange ratio is pretty basic. The diamond here, for every kilo of diamond you put in, you'll bring back 20 kilos of resources from the planet you're harvesting from. So in this instance, we're going to come back with, well, 20 tons. You'll come back with 20 tons of whatever you went out to harvest. Though I'm not seeing the mass remaining go down, so I'm not sure if that's been implemented yet or not, but we have just acquired, well, a lot of resources. For example, we have 4.8 tons of gold and 1.6 tons of fullerene. Now, I don't want to get too deep into the numbers on fullerene, but you only need 1 kilo of it to make 100 kilos of supercoolant, which means, well, 2 tons we're going to be starting with. That means we'll have 2,000 tons of supercoolant we could make out of this, and we don't need that much super. In fact, we need an awful lot of petroleum for that. We would actually have to produce an awful lot of petroleum just to make that much supercoolant. But I think our supercoolant problems are solved for the foreseeable future. Anyway, once this is finished, I'm still not sure if we can automate this yet. From what I can see, I've had to manually leave it out here, and then once it's finished, you bring it back home, unless there's some sort of automation or something I'm missing on the round trip. Maybe we could try an automated round trip on one of the closer ones to see how that works. But once this thing is finished, we are heading back home and completed. Yeah, we've also collected ourselves an artifact. We've got ourselves a strange brick or an old school cellular telephone. 5 tons of gold. Yes, almost 2 tons of fullerene. Yep, that will work just fine for me. Also, you'll notice carbon dioxide wise in here, not a lot of it. The reason being is every time the carbon dioxide intersects with this box of... oh, there we go. And it's gone. The reason being, this is full of oxylite. The oxylite detects that the pressure around it is less than 1.8 kilos and it off-gasses. Unfortunately, this means the pressure in here just keeps going up and up and up. We're already at 6 kilos per tile. Please tell... Yeah, pop your drums. Well, yeah, thank God you've got a sunny disposition. Sunny disposition definitely helps a lot. Alright, we'll send them back home. This might take a couple of days. Oh, and... if you check here, you can see the artifact has been collected at this site. So it seems there's only one artifact per asteroid field. Maybe there's more on satellites or something like that. Like there's a whole thing out here that looks like just an annihilated satellite that is only an artifact. But I think you just get one artifact per asteroid field. While we wait for the rocket to come home, we're going to set up a few things back here. First thing we're going to do is, well, get ourselves an oil refinery up and running again so that we can have more petroleum on standby. We're going to need that petroleum to make all that super coolant we're looking forward to. At the same time, we're going to need to provide water to that oil well to produce more crude oil, otherwise we'll run out of that stuff. So we're going to hook it into this, well, our mush tank. Our mush tank has clean water, polluted water, salt water, brine, everything in here, everything and anything. We can filter this all later by just boiling a lot of it. We'll dump it on the magma biome or something. But for now, we can just filter it through a desalinator and a water sieve, and the resulting water can flow down here. I'm not 100% positive, but I don't believe polluted water will damage a desalinator. It should just pass through and go out the other side. Yep, and vice versa. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so it lets through clean water and polluted water, and it only stops for salt water and brine. So that means we put the two of these down, we'll just get nothing but clean water out no matter what happens. Perfect. Let me do a little bit more management here. We want to make sure we're going to have to pipe a whole bunch of this petroleum up to near the surface. That's where we've actually... where are we going to put our super coolant production? All we've done is we have routed all the petroleum straight up here. Now, this is all in insulated pipes. The reason being, well, it's quite hot petroleum. This stuff's going to be 70 to 90 degrees or something like that when it comes out. And we're going to dump it into a couple of liquid tanks up here. In fact, we should probably make those insulated liquid tanks. Well, have insulated tiles on the bottom of them. Now, down here we've got this nice icy cold brine, and this should keep this whole area nice and chill. And we're going to use this molecular forge to produce an awful lot of supercoolant. Now, to produce supercoolant, you need 3 ingredients. The fullerene, it's on its way back in the rocket, gold, which we've got plenty of lying about the place, and petroleum. However, you can't just pump petroleum directly into the molecular forge. You have to get it in bottles and put it in by hand. I don't know why. So we're just going to fill those liquid reservoirs with petroleum and then deconstruct them. Or you could, of course, make a pool of petroleum and then, you know, have a pitcher pump. Too much effort. I think it's easier just to make about 10 tons of petroleum in bottles there, and then we can just, make ourselves over 10 tons, or actually 20 tons of supercoolant out of that. That should be more than all the supercoolant we need for the rest of the game. And here comes our supplies now. I've seen the odd bug with this engine where it keeps radiating even after it's landed, but I think this one's... Who? Oh, Sinatra got scalded, possibly because they ran out of the rocket without wearing a suit. You could have waited until that stopped, you muppet. Where are you going? Please tell me you're getting somewhere with oxygen, you... Right, you know what? Why don't you move over there? You gotta love the way they're trying to get themselves killed. You know what? We're going to send you into the base to get a suit on. With them on their way to actually getting a suit, we should probably unload this cargo container. Let's take it all out. I think we'll just drop the lot on the ground. We got 2 tons of fullerene, 2 tons of refined carbon, 5 tons of gold, 9 tons of sedimentary rock, and 2 tons of regolith. Yep. Wait. Oh, you can't drop it anymore. Ah, damn it. Okay, we'll have to use a cargo unloader. Alright, we've got ourselves the solid rocket port unloader, which is under shipping. It's not under rocketry, it's under shipping because it's the shipping section of automation. We've got ourselves a conveyor rail that goes all the way over there and drops off into a chute. We're going to drop that. Wait, I should probably not put it exactly there. Maybe put it there. Then we get to decide what to drop out of this. Let's start with the fullerene, shall we? That should be fairly straightforward. Okay, done. In fact, once all of this is done, I think we'll just take everything that's in there and dump it out. There's no point keeping anything on there. You know what? Do it all now. Perfect. While we're waiting for this to fill up, let's maybe just recharge the rocket for its next mission. And we can just turn this on. Turn that off. And if this fires at this, which sends it over here, which pumps it up here, which fires it over there, and boom. Not exactly rocket science. Well, I suppose technically is in this game, but not really. And we'll just fire a few of those until we've actually charged up the engine. I kind of find it a little bit ridiculous that you can use the engine's own exhaust to charge it. And that should be the end of it. Yeah, we had a little bit of overflow. Perfect. You can actually use that overflow system to charge multiple devices. We're probably going to be using that sort of mechanic to do an awful lot of diamond later on. With the rocket mostly unloaded, we now have plenty of resources to start churning out the supercoolant. That's what? Yeah, it's way too much. We have just so much of this stuff. We've also got about 2.7 tons of petroleum to make it, so yeah, we'll have about 5 tons once this is finished. Then we'll maybe produce some more petroleum if we need it. The first thing, though, we are going to use that for is to fix this. Well, not fix this, but improve this cooling loop. The reason being, this is running on ethanol, and ethanol just has so low thermal heat capacity. This thing is active nearly all the time, trying to keep up with cooling the water we've got going to our crops. Ethanol is great for low temperatures, but it's not great for the actual power efficiency. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to drain this loop. Yeah, that should start draining that out. That should all get dumped over here into this liquid tank, which is a mix of polluted water and ethanol, because of course it is. It's a complete mess. But once that's empty, what we'll do is we'll pour some supercoolant in there, and we'll fill this loop with supercoolant. So just give me 1 minute. With the last blob of ethanol removed, we can now hook this back up again. We want to get rid of that bridge, and we're going to put in a different little setup to force all the supercoolant on. This could take a couple of loads, but yeah, should be fairly quick. The system has now cut up, and you'll notice it doesn't quite stay on pretty much 90% of the time anymore. It tends to flick on and off every so often, as opposed to just constantly staying on. That's the power of supercoolant. It's saving us a bunch of power, which is probably a good idea considering how much power we're using. What are we at now? Yep, that's a stable power jaw right there. Christ. I think we started off somewhere down here at the start of the episode, so we haven't added that much power, I suppose. Though the solar seems to be, the solar is keeping us even, and, ooh, aluminum volcano. Yeah, temperature here has gotten a bit warm, hasn't it? That's loud. 294. Oh. That's not good. Okay. Emergency plans, take the storage bin, get rid of everything from them. That sticks on the ground. Once metal's on the ground, it doesn't exchange heat nearly as well. That should cause the temperature to rise a lot slower. Let's give that a minute. Looks like we're going to need to modify this design somewhat. I think I know what happened here. There used to be a bug where when water came out of a steam turbine and was dropped into a steam room, the more pressure that was in there, it used to delete more heat. So you needed a lot less water, or you'd end up deleting the heat you were getting. However, I think they patched that, and this was designed before they patched that. So when this was designed, you could actually you could delete an awful lot more heat using just a couple of steam turbines that were self-cooled. Yeah, I get it. This should be a fairly straightforward proposition. We're just going to expand this out. Once we've got this in, we'll dig out that refined carbon. In fact, I think we can dig out that refined carbon now. It shouldn't erupt for another few cycles, so we've got a little bit of time before we can get this completed. 3 steam turbines feels like it's a little bit excessive for a volcano, but you know what? So long as it's power-free, I will be happy. Let's see if that works. Same thing again, I've just hooked up all of these together. And why is that one not running? Oh, the temperature there is actually dropped below 125. Perfect. Alright, some of our next plans is going to be improve the cooling loop over here, replace that with supercoolant, improve the cooling loops in our nuclear reactors. We're going to have to rip out the nuclear waste and replace that with supercoolant as well. It'll just be more efficient, and we won't have these annoying blobs that get fed on here, because this is not exactly a very power efficient method. Well, it's still better than the ethanol was. But that's more than we have enough time for today. I can do that all in the background. I think the next plan, though, is going to be colonizing these additional planets. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planets we haven't even looked at yet. And what I want to do is I want to start tapping into all the resources on them. For example, this one's got a water geyser and a polluted water vent. I'd like to try and fire that back home to us. We've also got a niobium volcano over here. We also have a bunch of resource patches in there we haven't even looked at. This one's got tungsten. Yeah, I don't really care about the rest of them, but definitely the tungsten. We want to send that back home to this planet. I want to make this sort of a central core and then just fill this map with as much resources as possible and then do something ridiculous with them all. Just not sure what yet. Anyway, I'm going to cut this out here. I hope you enjoyed it. Good luck.